Hi everybody, this is Scott Ulmer coming to you here. If you're watching this video, you clicked in to learn a little bit more about the program that I'm here to tell you a little bit about. I've got a couple things I'm going to share with you on this video, in particular a deal that we literally closed today that we're very excited about. It was a bread and butter type deal for us, and I'm going to walk you through the program and kind of how we got from point A to point Z and collected a pretty nice check today. Let me tell you a little bit about myself and my backstory. I've been in full-time real estate for over 20 years and have transacted over 1,500 deals, mostly residential. I've done a handful of commercial, but my specialty is really working with no money down, no credit type scenarios, or what we refer to as creative type financing. That's been my specialty for my entire career, and what I have done is taken really a culmination of land contracts, lease options, lease purchase, owner financing, subject tos, axe deals, everything you can imagine, and consolidated and streamlined it into a very, very simple, universal, streamlined technique. And it has become so simple to do that we've made it so, not only through our approach and through our scripts, but also through our documents, that I'm very, very excited to share it with you here. Taking the good, the bad, eliminated the bad, and kind of condensed them into a one-size-fits-all approach. Try to eliminate all the confusion that exists in these deals. I've mentored a lot of people all over the country, and I've come to find that much of the confusion comes in what type of deal is it, what script do I use, what contract do I use, how do I get it to this point, what do I get the leads, what do I say here, and what we have done is we've made it very, very simple. Now, notice I never said easy. I've come to learn in this life that anything worth having requires hard work, and what we do here is no exception. So I always tell people right off the bat, if you're looking for some get-rich-quick scheme, where you're going to make $1 million in your first year with working 2 or 3 hours a week, that's not us. And if you are that person, you might as well stop watching now, because that is not what I'm here to share with you. We work hard, and we expect those that work with us to work hard as well. And because we work hard, we enjoy the fruits of our labor. But at the end of the day, it's not complicated, but it does require hard work, and I always like to preface that. So having said that, what I'm most excited about is really to share with you kind of the document structure that we use here. And I'm going to walk you through an example in just a minute. So we started this new company with this new strategy about 12 months ago. In our first 100 days, we put over $10 million of residential real estate under contract, and we actually made a profit of $100,000 in our first 100 days. Yes, I'm very excited about that and very proud of that, because we went into a market with absolutely zero leads and zero starting point from zero, I should say, and within that 100-day window, really able to put some really good numbers together. Behind me, I don't know if you can see, is kind of our war board. At any given time, we keep between $10 and $12 million of inventory on our books. It fluctuates, obviously. Some deals fall through, other deals obviously we close, but that's really our benchmark, and that's currently where we're at right now. And we've learned, and you will as well, that it's a numbers game. So the more deals we can bring in on the front end, obviously the better chance that we have to convert those deals into cash, and the example I'm going to show you today. So let me kind of walk you through the example. Let me tell you why this strategy is really the strategy you should be focusing on more than anything. I know a lot of folks out there in real estate are traditional investors. They like wholesale deals. Wholesale is a very, very big market for investors. I understand that. It's not a bad market. I've got nothing against wholesaling. Personally, I've never liked wholesaling. It's never been a part of my business. I feel like you leave way too much money on the table, but it has its benefits. Through Abel's program, Abel's strategy, you are making more money than you would wholesaling, and you effectively are really wholesaling these types of deals, but you're wholesaling them to owner-occupants, and it's probably a misnomer, because it's not a wholesale deal where you're getting a good deal, you're giving a good deal, but at the end of the day, the control factor and the fact that you're not required to put up a bunch of cash really is the kind of common denominator between this and wholesaling. I have access to a lot of private funds, but did not put $12 million on the street to acquire the homes that we currently have control of. So there is some similarities to wholesaling, but I want to be very clear, you will make more money doing these deals than wholesaling. As far as traditional investing, where you're buying rehabs or REOs and with the intent to fix them up and flip them, it's a great business. It's a lot of work. There are a lot of variables. You have contractors and problems with inspections and appraisal issues and title issues. Have you owned it for 90 days, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. Again, nothing wrong with those rehabs. You can make a good living on them. Most people that do rehabs never factor in the short-term capital gain that takes 35% of your profit, but at the end of the day, it is a very, very good business for a lot of people. But this strategy eliminates the need for contractors and having to go put a bunch of cash on the street, whether it's your own or whether it's private. So I'm a fan of doing rehabs. I've done literally hundreds, if not over 1,000 of those. But at the end of the day, this requires none of that. And again, because of the simplicity of it, I'm here to advocate it's a much, much better strategy to implement and to start doing real estate investing than doing those traditional type deals. So to me, that was very, very important to share because of the mass of people that are in real estate that do one of those two types of investing. I want to share with you that this really is a very, very, very cool strategy, and obviously very excited to share it with you. So let me start from the very beginning. So we call on a lot of for sale by owners. That really is our particular niche market. And I actually spoke with a student yesterday, and he asked me about doing yellow letters, and I said I haven't done yellow letters quite literally in 3 years. Not because they don't work, because they do work. They're a very targeted direct mail campaign. Of course, you get a lot of response, and there's only a very small percentage that you are going to yield good results with, but those few typically make up the difference. And so I'm a fan of yellow letters, and there are certain demographics that I like. I'm still a fan of the over-leveraged or high mortgage balance yellow letter type demographic, where you have a certain zip code, certain price point that you're looking at, and of course high leverage or high mortgage balances. But because of the multitude of leads that our virtual assistant has supplied us with, we don't have a need for those. So why would I go out and spend quite literally thousands of dollars to acquire a list and mail out hundreds and or even in the potential thousands to possible prospects when I have more leads than I can handle right now without incurring that expense? In fact, our VA cost for between 30 and 35 leads a week is very, very low. I won't tell you what it is because we get a special deal with Elsa, but we get more leads than we can handle, so there's no need to incur the cost for yellow letters. But we start out with these for sale by owner leads. Elsa has a very precise script that her VAs follow that we have personally provided to them that ask the questions in a very soft fashion. The questions are very simple. Of course, you're finding out about the house and the specifics with the home, but what is really important is really the financials of it. What do they owe? Do you mind if I ask why you're selling? What's your monthly payment? Does it include taxes and insurance, et cetera, et cetera? But probably the primary question that we're looking for is, if the terms made sense to you or the terms are right, would you consider working with a lease purchase type scenario? And of course, their answer we'll know ahead of time before we call them back. If the answer is no, the VA, the virtual assistant, has a secondary follow-up question that says to them, do you mind if I ask why? So now we're gleaning the explanation, or I should say the objection, before we're even calling them back. So we're prepared from the beginning to call them back with a counter to their objection. And I can tell you, we have encountered probably every objection that there is, and we have an answer to each one of those. But having said that, the particular lead that I'm going to tell you about today was actually a no lead. And I smile because no's are my favorites. To me, the yeses, of course, we sort through our leads, and people that say, yes, I will owner finance or I will consider a lease purchase, we obviously want to call those back first because they already are seemingly perched and ready. Can yes leads really be no leads? Of course they can, and certainly we run across those. But the no leads, it's almost like there's just no pressure there. It's already a no. We condense the call, and we kind of go right to the bottom line fairly quickly. And so I always say one of the questions I asked my assistant to ask you was if you would consider, under the right terms and circumstances, working with a short-term lease purchase. And she indicated that that was something you did not think you'd be interested in. I want to make sure that I was correct in stating that. Is that correct? And they'll say, yes, it is. They say, well, do you mind if I ask why? Kind of the magical three-letter word, why? And then they'll give me their objection, which I already know because my VA has prepped me for that. And then we will go back with our rebuttal. In this particular case, the seller lives in North Carolina. This home, by the way, let me just go ahead and get to writing here, Dan. It's on a street called New Park, and it's down in St. Augustine. And Hopefully the shine from my head doesn't deflect too brightly there. So anyway, she lives in North Carolina. It had been a rental for her. And she lived at one point, moved away, and now has it as a rental. Didn't want to be a long-distance landlord, but obviously was okay accepting payments because she had done so for several years. So when we provided her what we call a very sound exit strategy, selling it to someone who can afford to buy a home, but for a multitude of reasons may not be able to walk into the bank today and qualify for that traditional mortgage, we typically can maximize the yield on the investment. We can maximize the return and the profit at the end of the day because we always are able to list it at a premium price. The seller will receive monthly payments that in most cases do not reduce the balance that is owed to them, which then that cash flow adds up to the aggregate amount of what they'll be receiving. So not only are we going to give them a premium price for the home, but they're also able to count the positive cash flow towards their bottom line profit. So it really can be attractive under the right circumstances. And again, they have full approval rights on the buyer that we want to work with. So when we kind of posed some of those scenarios, she liked what she heard. She obviously was okay accepting payments, just didn't want to be a long distance landlord. Let me also tell you that our agreements call for all maintenance, repair, upkeep items that are related to the home to pass on to the buyer after 30 days. So we do offer a 30-day warranty on any of the mechanical systems, and we tell every seller, look, we are going to ask you to warranty those. If something goes awry in the first 30 days, we will ask you to go back and fix it. After 30 days has passed, all of that does ultimately go on to the buyer, and it's their full responsibility. So there's no landlording responsibilities. You won't get a call Saturday at 2 in the morning with a plugged up toilet, which is an exaggeration, although those calls do happen. We also will set up a direct deposit for you, Miss Seller in North Carolina. So it'll be a streamlined payment set up on the first of every month. You don't have to worry about collecting a payment either. So those factors intrigued her very, very much. And I'm going to tell you two quick tidbits here that are very, very important that we've learned some very powerful lessons in the past couple weeks. Posturing is something I've always preached about. It is very counterintuitive, but when you present yourself to these sellers, or frankly to any client, from a position of value, that I bring value to the table. I don't work for free, and if this isn't something of interest to you, then that's okay. I wish you well. Simultaneously to that statement, we want everyone to know that obviously we are for profit, and we've gotten to the point now where we will tell our sellers, if we can't make at least $10,000 on the deal, we're not interested in doing that. And when I first started putting that into the script, some of the folks I work with here couldn't believe it. They said, what are you doing? You're going to lose people. They're $10,000. I mean, my goodness, they're going to flip about that. But what it really did is it showed them, I bring a value to the table, and I am worth at least that amount. Otherwise, I'm not going to waste my time. Now, people have a tough time actually saying that. It's very counterintuitive. You're calling the seller. You're asking for their business. And yet you're posturing against that, saying, look, I'm only going to do it. I'm only going to work with you if I can make this amount of money. And again, very counterintuitive, but by posturing, it is amazing the difference. And I will get into that more so. I'm kind of glossing over that right now, but that has been the difference in so many deals I can't even tell you. The second part I want to share, again, just briefly on this particular video, is the value issue. We've learned the hard way that if a seller is asking for some sort of a pie-in-the-sky price, rather than say what's the least you would take under the right circumstances or under the right terms with the right buyer, what do you think the least you can take would be? It's a very good question. However, what we've learned is most sellers, they just will say, well, I don't have a lot of flexibility, or maybe I'd come down a little bit. But the question we ask now is, if it were to appraise today, what do you think it would appraise for? If they tell you they don't know, they're full of crap, excuse me. Everybody knows what their house is worth approximately. That's just one of those things that they know. So if it doesn't have to appraise today, and we let them know that, but if it were to appraise today, what do you think it would appraise for? And if it's higher than appraised value, that's setting us up for some issues right off the bat. With the advent of the internet, values are available online very easily. So if we know going in that we're priced high, that's going to be a problem. So we don't have any issues pricing it at the top of the market or at a premium value. We can always come down, right? A lot tougher to go back up. Having said that, at the end of the day, do you have it priced right from the very beginning? And by asking that appraisal question, it really puts them not so much on the spot, but lets them know, look, this has to be fair market or we're wasting our time. And as I always say, how do you think I know? We wasted our time on a lot of deals where we had just wanted to get the contract, agreed to any price that the seller had asked for, and in reality, after we had gotten the contract and taken it to market and were overpriced, we ended up spinning our wheels and found buyers that realized, hey, it's not worth this, even though it's a beautiful home in a beautiful area. We can't justifiably agree to that price point. In some cases, we found ourselves so far apart that we were wasting our time and the buyer's time. So that's a very good question to start asking if you are doing deals currently and are out there dealing with sellers that want pie-in-the-sky prices. I'm going to say one other thing here. We have not only refined our script, I would be willing to bet you that you've never heard a script like ours. We ask questions in a certain format, big on being very polite, very kind and courteous. We treat everyone the way we want to be treated, but we try to get to the bottom line very quickly in a polite fashion. How we have structured the sequence of questions and the ease of the questions, the soft approach, which is something we're real big on here. We always say, be soft approach. People are more receptive to that. Our scripts are like nothing you've ever heard. I'd be willing to guarantee you that. What's even more than that is this. We retain 2 different law firms to recraft every document that we use here, specific to Able strategy. And we have condensed these 10, 12, 15-page agreements into 1 page that has more teeth in that agreement by virtue of the agreement itself, which I'm not going to tell you on this video what the agreement is, but we have condensed it to 1 page. I got a phone with a student this morning in Virginia who I had sent the sequence of documents up to, and he said to me, Scott, you have no idea how many deals we have lost with sellers. They're interested, we've had a great call, they like what we're presenting, they like the concept, they're willing to lease purchase. As soon as we put this 15-page agreement in front of them, they flip. They say, well, geez, all this legalese, I need to have my attorney look it over, and many of them do. Sometimes that's just an excuse, but when someone is scared, or they don't understand, or they're confused, a confused mind never buys, and we've always subscribed to that fact. In realizing this, we condense this to 1 page with about 4 or 5 points that need to be filled in, and it is just a magical agreement. I don't know how else to say it. It is the best agreement I've ever seen, and of course I'm a little partial because I helped create it, but it is so effective, and I think at the end of the day, more than anything that I'm going to share with you, our scripts and the sequence of documents are absolutely invaluable, and I'm going to get to those as we go, not on this video, but in a subsequent one. So having said all that, your agreement can kill the deal if you're not careful. You can do everything right, negotiate right, ask the right questions, get them to the point where they are interested, they being the seller, but you kill yourself when you put this lengthy, scary agreement in front of them. And our agreements are like nothing I've ever seen. So very easy format, very easy script, and certainly very simple. So having said all that, I want to also share real quickly, every deal we do, we literally won't do unless we can make 10 grand. Have we done a couple where we made less than 10 grand? Yes, we have, full disclosure. But we make anywhere from 10 to 30,000 every deal that we do. In fact, right now we've got a couple buyers, and knock on some wood here, that we have a showing this afternoon and then in 2 days that have over $100,000 to put down. So not all of that's going to end up being ours, I don't think, but we still like those numbers. So anyway, having said all that, I hope I'm not talking too fast, trying to condense this into a fairly short video here. So let me run through the numbers with you real quick and kind of go through the deal as it is as we sit here today. So remember, it was a no lead. We converted her to a maybe, sent her an email with a little bit of a story on who we are, linked her into our website. We've got a website we're very proud of. It's littlepinkhousesofamerica.com. Welcome to check it out. We've got some great homes, great testimonials, and we think our website really speaks very well for us when we're sharing that with people. So we were able to get her to say yes. We typically only will ask a seller for a 45 to 60 day window to do what we do, market their home and try to bring one of our buyers to meet their criteria. So we're not asking for 6 months. In fact, we're not even asking for 90 days. We ask for somewhere between 45 and 60 because that is our typical sales cycle. And here's the beauty of this deal. We had it under contract and actually found a buyer within, I think, 10 or 11 days. We are closing the deal within 3 weeks of putting it under contract. So those of you out there who have a preconception or a misnomer that, you know, it takes months and months, when you're buying a rehab, you got to buy it and make offers and go through the whole process. You're looking at 2, 3, 4 months and sometimes longer before you actually have a payday. In 3 weeks, we're going to get a payday, and we actually are walking with 12 grand, or we walked with 12 grand. It hasn't hit the account yet, but it's being wired in today, and that was literally for 3 weeks, and we have another 3,000 coming in 6 months, and I'll tell you about that in a second. So let me walk through here. So seller in North Carolina had it listed at $232 and had said that she kind of felt that that was a fair market value. She had an appraisal done for the purpose of a refinance 2 years ago, and I think it came in at the $232. So she was right where it needed to be. We did our own market analysis, and you can find the same really on Zillow or any of those free websites, and we had comps anywhere from 225 up to about 250, 260. So knowing that she was at 232, we felt a fair market value after seeing it would be 244. We did 244.9. All right, so within a couple days of getting it out there, marketing it, we're very big on the bandit signs. We put those out every Friday afternoon. Try to pick them up on Sundays, otherwise we get fined. And yes, we have gotten fined. Those darn sign police will get you. In certain areas, they're much, much worse. But having said that, we found a buyer within our first, as I said, 10 or 11 days. They came to the table. They represented that they had $15,000 to put down. Turns out they were a little short on the 15, and I'll get to that in just a moment. But starting point is this, is that we always will mark up the price of the home to reflect our fee. Typically, it's about a $10,000 markup. I'll also tell you, we always disclose to the seller right up front. This is how we make our money. We make it in 2 ways. We ask you for the first payment. So when the buyer closes or has what we call the front closing, which is the lease purchase closing, they put their deposit down, which is non-refundable. They make their first month's payment at that time as well. We keep that payment, and then there's a $500 fee for the closing that goes to the law firm that handles the closing preparations. Your payments, Miss Seller, will begin subsequent 30 days. So they will start 30 days after the buyer moves in. We also collect our primary fee from the buyer, and that comes again in the form of the non-refundable deposit. So what we're going to do is we're going to bump up the price of your home pending the market value will support it, somewhere between $5,000 and $10,000, and the fee that the buyers give us comes off of the price, gives them not only the proceeds off of the price of the home, but it also gives them that money credited towards their down payment requirements. I learned a long time ago that when you tap dance or you hide the fact that you're going to bump up the price, it could come back and bite you, because most times the seller goes on after you've got it and you've changed the information and now you have it out there on the market as yours. They find out that you've bumped up the price, and when you didn't tell them that, they say, well, now wait a minute here. I'm already asking this and you put another $10,000. So we come right out and we tell them. And again, when you ask about the appraisal question from the very beginning, not only are you posturing with them to say, look, we've got to have it priced right or we're wasting our time. And I tell people, if it's not priced right, it may not be something that we want to undertake. Now, just those words right there, that sentence says, look, I'm valuing myself, I'm posturing, and I'm not just going to concede because you want a pie-in-the-sky price. It has to be supported. So with that, we knew that 232 was very, very fair because it was an appraisal from 2 years ago in the city of St. Augustine, which is about 20 minutes south of where we are here in Jacksonville. And we know that the past 24 months, there's been about 3 to 5% appreciation in this market. So if she's at 232, we didn't argue with that price. And we knew that 244.9 would support appraisal value today, even though it doesn't have to appraise today. So we take it out at 244.9. We go down and show it. Buyers absolutely love it. It's a dynamite place. So they came in and they offered 240 with 10 down, even though they told us they had 15. They offered 10 down, and they were going to do $1,500 a month, which is what the seller ultimately was asking as well. Now, their buyer is, believe it or not, the wife is a real estate agent, which always puts a smile on my face, because even though realtors are tremendously talented and there's some great ones out there, most realtors don't really understand what we do. And that doesn't come as a surprise anymore. They're trained in this traditional world. You list a house, you sell a house. Anything that's creative they're not very much privy to, and they don't always understand it. So the wife was a realtor, and the husband owned his own business. Actually, he travels back and forth to China, so he does very well for himself, makes about $100,000 a year, and she had, I don't know, made, I think, only about 40 or so. Forgive me, only about 40, but so collectively they had plenty of income, and their debt-to-income ratio certainly was adequate. I'll tell you in another video how we get our buyers qualified, how we verify all that information. We don't just take their words for it. We obviously have a third party that we check and balance everything with. So, but at the end of the day, we knew they could afford it, and we felt that their offer obviously wasn't bad. And then I'm always going off on these sidebar tangents, forgive me, but I will tell you, we learned another lesson here about 6 months ago. If any buyer wants to offer $10,000 to $15,000 or more off of the price, my team has specific instructions not to write it. Again, I'm posturing, aren't I? They say, look, we've had a lot of interest in the home. If you really like it and you want to make an offer, we encourage you to put your best foot forward. And if it's going to be a real low offer, I can tell you right now, it's not going to get accepted, so it's probably not even worth writing it. Well, don't you think they want the contract? My team, of course they do, but they also know that if we come in with a low number, it's not going to be very, very difficult to get it accepted. And so we lost a few really big deals like that, and at that point we said, look, no more taking lowball offers. We now will guide where their offer comes in at. Before we just said, hey, just give us a deposit check and write an offer and let us go to work. And it worked for a while, and it still has some merit there. But at the end of the day, we want them to come in with a good offer. So now we try and guide them when they come in. It makes a huge, huge difference. So offer wasn't bad. Of course, Marcy on my team had guided them to come in with their best foot forward. And so the 240 was not a bad offer. But we went back to them and we said, we'll split the difference with you at 242. And the 10, we said, what happened to the 15 that you had? And they said, well, we've got moving expenses, we got this, we've got that, blah, 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 blah. And they gave me the whole sob story. I'm just kidding. But they did say that they had some other expenses. So we went back and forth, and we said to them, look, you can do 12 now, plus your first payment of $1,500. And of course, they have this $500 fee for closing. We'll give you 6 more months to come up with the other 3. Truth be told, we actually considered waiving the other 3, just say 12 now and we'll call it even, but we said, well, that's $3,000 that we can pocket down the road. So we said, can you do 12 now and 3 and 6 months? I mean, they were doing cartwheels. They were so happy, and they were thankful that we gave them this little window of time to come up with the additional 3. So someday we're going to wake up and we're going to have a $3,000 check in our mailbox and say, oh yeah, that's right, we forgot about that. And so at the end of the day, the terms that we ended up with were the 242, $12,000 down, and $1,500 a month. Because of the self-employment of the buyer, and they actually had gone through a hiccup when he was starting his business about 4 or 5 years ago, they just were not in a position to go to the bank today and get a mortgage. He was sufficient with his income. Debt income was fine. Credit wasn't awful. In fact, I think they were in the 6s, low 600s, but they just paid cash for everything. And as we find is very common, especially for people that own their own business or are self-employed, they don't always work on credit when they need to. They just haven't had a need for it. And something like this really forces their hand. So perfect buyer, 3 weeks, 12 grand. And in this case, we actually ended up conceding the first payment to the seller, and I'm going to tell you why. So if you're doing the math in your head and you say, oh, you got a 242 sale price and you knock 12 off, that takes you down to 230. But you've agreed to give the seller 232. So right now you're negative 2,000. Oh, and by the way, you actually are getting another 3,000 in 6 months. So your price to them, or I should say the balance that they will owe you at the end of their 24-month term, is going to be 227, and you got the seller at 232. So you say, what did you do? Well, we called the seller after we had taken a deposit. We never negotiate without a deposit. That's very important. People will make offers and they'll want to run you around before giving you a deposit. If you don't have a deposit, you have no skin in the game. You really are wasting your time. Again, another small lesson that can ultimately amount to a lot of wasted time. So we went back to her and we said, look, at the end of the day, it's a great buyer, and they're just great buyers. I mean, we just stumbled across a great couple. By the way, this is bread and butter for us. It's a great deal. I'm very happy with it. We made 12 grand in 3 weeks. However, This is nothing that's abnormal. It's just, and it's in every market across the country. I've been all over. Everybody has deals just like this sitting in their backyard. It's not complicated. It's not anything that takes rocket science. If this bonehead can do it, anybody can do it. But again, I used the word easy a couple minutes ago. I was shy from that, but it's very simple. It's just following the script and having confidence in what you're saying, posturing accordingly. And again, it's just not that complex. We went back to the seller and we said, look, by the way, she only wanted 12 months. We ended up negotiating a 24-month window. But at the end of the day, that $1,500 payment, she walks with about $800 every single month. That's after she's paid her taxes and insurance. So we went back to her, and guess what we offered her? We offered her $227, right? If you look over here, that's what our buyer is going to have as a balance due at the time that they go get their mortgage in 24 months. And so as far as the seller's concerned, we said we're offering you $5,000 less than what you're asking. By the way, in the traditional world of real estate, $5,000 off of the asking price isn't really bad, right? But the beauty in this scenario is that if she gets $800 a month times 12 months, so let's just do the math here, 800 times 12, if my math is right, it's $9,600. And of course, she's getting that times 2 years. So she's really getting, what is that, 19,200, 19.2, something like that. Sorry about my bad handwriting there. But at the end of the day, so now she's going to get her $227 price, but she's getting an additional 19 grand in cash flow. Remember, she's not a landlord. She doesn't have to worry about going and doing maintenance and repairs after the first 30 days. Nor does she have to worry about chasing someone down to get a check, because we have set it up on a streamlined direct deposit. As far as the buyers making the payment, I don't know a lot of people that want to put $12,000 plus their first payment, $13,500 plus a lawyer's fee of $500, and then lose $15,000 by not making their monthly payment. So we have sufficient skin in the game from the buyer. We've done thorough due diligence and qualified them to a very, very large degree. And again, I'll get into that in another video. So we felt very good about the buyers. We sat down, had an interview right in this room here, and made sure they understood all the expectations, what's required of them, what they can expect from us, et cetera, how our program works. Very simple, only a few things they have to worry about. But at the end of the day, it was a great fit for them and great fit for the seller. So the seller up in North Carolina is ecstatic with us because within 3 weeks, we found her a dynamite buyer, and she's going to get $5,000 less than she's asking, but she's also going to get this positive cash flow. By the way, that's after taxes and insurance, I said. She's going to get another 10 grand every single year for the next 2 years in positive cash flow. So at the end of the day, that is New Park. And again, it's been a great deal for us, but I want to stress it's bread and butter. It's bread and butter for us. I would do these deals every single day, every single week, every single month. And our goal, we want to do a base level benchmark of at least 4 of these every month. We try to do 5 to 7, and most months we do average that. We're up and down, just like any business, and we obviously strive for that consistency, but anybody can do these types of deals. And ask me how much money was out of our pocket. The goose egg. We had no money out of our pocket. We had to pay for the lead from the VA. We had some marketing expenses. Yes, we did put signs out, and we ran Craigslist ads for free. Didn't do yellow letter, by the way. It just was online, for sale by owner. Might even have been a for rent by owner. I've always said high dollar for rent by owners, $250 and up for rents, usually aren't investment properties. People didn't typically go out and pay $200,000 or $300,000 for a rental property. They lived there at one point, and they moved, and they either wanted to keep it or didn't think they could sell it or didn't want to sell it for what the value was at that time. So we find there's a lot of landlords that want to be landlords in the higher value homes. So the lead itself was just generated online, so the out-of-pocket costs we had were just very, very nominal, very, very minimal. And at the end of the day, you know, we're going to make $12,000. By the way, because we conceded, or I should say we asked the seller to come down $5,000, we did concede that first payment. Didn't have to. She didn't ask for it. Of course, after I conceded, I kind of thought, why'd I give that to her? But because we asked her to take $5,000 less than she was going to, that she was asking, we did go ahead and say, well, we're going to concede that first payment, so you'll get that first payment at the time that the buyer moves in, which again was today. So anyway, just a quick example. This is ABLE. ABLE stands for, it's an acronym that says Assembling Buyers Lease Estates. And a lease estate is really when you're structuring the ability for a buyer to come in, lease the home with the intent to purchase it within a defined period of time. And so what we have done is try to simplify all those different techniques and strategies into one very, very simple approach, simple document set, simple marketing plan, and simple kind of back-end structure is what we call it. Got all the checks and balances in place. It's again not easy, but it is very, very simple if you just follow the process. So anyway, thanks for listening. It's been an absolute joy to be speaking to you, and hope you're still watching this video and haven't turned it off yet. There will be more to come, and just kind of stay tuned in your email. And if you have any questions, want to explore this a little bit more, I offer a free consultation. In fact, we've got another offer coming up where we will review one deal of yours free. No matter what the deal is, the structure, the type, we will review it for you free of charge. We'll tell you exactly what we would say, how we would approach buyer or seller, how we would structure it, and hopefully that will help you get started. But you can always visit www.realestatementorandmarketing.com. realestatementorandmarketing.com. That's my website, and you can go there, find out about what other programs we offer. We do offer mentoring, we do offer joint venturing. I will actually come to your city and close deals for you. One of my favorites that we offer. I really enjoy those and can really jumpstart someone's real estate business. But let me not go off on a tangent. Check out the website if you have any interest, realestatementorandmarketing.com. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you next time.